I'd like to introduce you to Gus Roosh, who'll speak with you this afternoon on Norman Rockwell.
I'll speak loudly so everyone will hear me. I'm lucky to be here. I taught a class over at Northern Essex today from 10 to 12. And when I went out to put my bag into the car, loaded with Rockwell material, a lady was having trouble finding her keys. I went over to help her find her keys. She was searching through her pocketbook. Everything was in there except the kitchen sink. And then I asked her a question. Are they in your pocket? They were in her pocket. But in my haste to get over here, one time, I left my bag with all of these in the parking lot next to another car. I was here 25 past 12. I went back to Northern Essex, searched the parking area, nothing. But then the lady whom I helped find the keys, she left after me. She saw my bag. She was in my class this morning. So she had a student carry the bag into the school. Boy, that was a frantic ride back to Northern Essex. I was glad there were no policemen around either, because I had my 1969 Chevy Impala, and I had it moving quickly. Everyone get out of my way, because it looks like a tank. So I'm glad my wife would have chased me down the street, even though they're mine. She would still chase me down the street. All right. No, don't. No one has to tell her. I'm not going to tell her. I'll just do everything on her honey-do list. Be quiet. All right. Everyone here today knows of Norman Rockwell and his wonderful art, especially all those Saturday Evening Post covers and his masterpieces, The Four Freedoms. And everyone here has her favorites from among Rockwell's thousands of paintings. I brought The Four Freedoms with me, and 3 of his most popular covers, according to the polls taken by the Saturday Evening Post. And I'm going to show you the 3 most popular covers. And I'm going to leave everything up here afterwards, and I'm going to turn some of them around so you can walk around the table this way and have a chance to look at the paintings. This is the most popular cover ever for the Saturday Evening Post. The elderly grandmother sitting there saying grace, and the 2 other fellows at the table wondering what's going on, and saying grace. You'll be able to see this afterward, but he got this idea from someone who had gone to Amish country, and the person had seen an Amish lady and little girl eating. So she called him and gave him the idea for this. He got his ideas from lots and lots of people, not just from himself. So that's the most popular. This one is hard to see from where you are, but you'll be able to see it afterwards. This is called Homecoming. See the serviceman in the army uniform? This is after World War II. And he's coming home, and here they are in the tenement building in the city, and they're sneaking peeks at him from everywhere. There are a lot of people in this one. You have to take a good close look. There's even a girl hiding around the corner. Maybe that's his girlfriend. I don't know about that, but maybe it is. And remember the stars we used to have in our windows when you had servicemen and women away? The blue stars, that was all right. The gold stars, that was sad, real sad. That's the second most important. And the third one, oh boy. The doctor checking out the doll. She brought her doll to the doctor's office, and he's given the doll a physical. This is the 3rd most popular of all of Mr. Rockwell's art pieces. And The Four Freedoms. I have these here. We all remember this one. Freedom of speech. His 4 freedoms came from a speech by Franklin Delano Roosevelt about having some patriotism during wartime. And so this is the first one that he mentioned, freedom of speech. Every time I look at this picture right here, I think it's Casey Stengel, who used to be the manager of the New York Yankees. It looks just like him. If Mr. Rockwell were here, I'd ask him. I don't know if that's really what happened. And the next one, freedom of worship. Freedom of worship, freedom of religion. So when you come up afterwards, you know what these are. These are the 4 freedoms. Then I have, oh, this one always makes me hungry. Always makes me hungry. Freedom from want. Freedom from want. And all of these people in these paintings, they're all friends, relatives, neighbors. That's what he liked to do most. People he knew. And some of them were his models many, many times. Many times. And the last one up here is, the woman told me the other day, she cries when she sees this one. Freedom from fear. Mother and father tucking the children into bed during World War II. The children wondering what's going to happen next. They probably have been practicing in school, hiding under the desks. I think some of us remember this. Or going down to the basement in the schoolhouse and standing there without saying a word. I remember the nuns coming around and making sure we didn't say a word. Because the German planes might have been right above us. Sure. They came all the way across the Atlantic. I also brought many of his illustrations and books to share with you. Some of them are old, some of them are new, but you can take a peek at these afterwards. I have a ton of material on Norman Rockwell. He did so many illustrations. The one in the back I like, the clown. The clown. This is a long time ago, this one is. And it's about socks. He did ads, advertisements. He did many advertisements. And this one's about interwoven socks, toe and heel, selling socks. Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell was born on February 3rd, 1894, in the back bedroom of a shabby brownstone in New York City. According to Norman, he was born feet first at 2 a.m. and was given the name Norman Percival. P-E-R-C-E-V-E-L. He hated that middle name Percival and dropped it as soon as he could leave home. He even dropped the letter P. You only see Norman Rockwell. No P in the middle, no Percival there. I'm going to take a little bit of time with the chronology. I'm not going to take it all, but some of these parts are very important. At age 10, I discover my monstrous Adam's apple, my narrow shoulders, my long neck, and my pigeon toes. My parents have me fitted for correctional shoes, but when my father reads Dickens to the family by gaslight, I forget my shortcomings and express my sympathy for Little Nell and Oliver Twist, and my fear of the villains, Fagin and Bill Sykes, by drawing pictures of them. That's how he gets rid of his fear. I am fitted with round spectacles and acquired the nickname Moonface, or Mooney. That's what the kids used to call him, Mooney. I fill the margins of my school books with sketches. All artists do that. I was a teacher. I remember kids when I walked around the room sketching, and they become artists, which is very good, as long as they pass their tests. I attempt a cover for Saturday Evening Post. The editor accepts it and okays 2 idea sketches. Jubilation! He's thrilled. He doesn't think he's going to get any Saturday Evening Post covers. And then, right away, I marry Irene O'Connor. I begin to do more work for adult magazines, less for young people's magazines. But when he was doing work for young people's magazines, he called himself the boy illustrator. That's what he called himself. Overcome with patriotism, I enlist in the Navy. Ooh, World War I. My duties in special services are light, so I continue painting covers and illustrations. I am making more money than an admiral. He's selling all of his paintings and the money's rolling in. But look what he does next. He's a shrewd man. I paint the portrait of my commanding officer and receive an early special discharge. Get out of the Navy by painting a picture of his commander. That's not bad. I ought to try that too. I paint my first advertisements for Coughs and Colds and the Overland automobile. That's in 1919. Some of this we don't really need. While plugging away at covers, ads, and illustrations, I find time for trips to Europe and South America. From 1920 to 1925, he traveled. That's because his wife liked to travel. And she has a magazine in her hand. And if you look at this closely afterwards, the picture on the magazine is Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner is in this. I'm sorry. I should have remembered this. I did Ava Gardner, but not for this. Jane Russell. Jane Russell. Jane Russell. There she is right there. You come up and look afterwards. So I can see what she was, I would like to look like that when I get a little older. Yes. But she looked so sad, and she was a model for him many, many times. She could keep a pose. He really liked all of her expressions. Whatever he said, she did to perfection. So she was in many, many different paintings. The Runaway, inspired by Norman Rockwell because when he was a kid, he ran away from home. He ran away from home. And so that's this one. The Runaway. The Massachusetts State Police. The Runaway. Now there's a story behind this. His first painting of this was done in a Howard Johnson's in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Then he took it home, and then he thought, I don't like the background of a modern restaurant. So he did a diner instead. The background of this is now a diner. So this was not the first one he did. And the diner, well, we all liked diners when we were a little younger. Diners were always special. They always had those nice, delicious pies, one on top of the other. Remember in the display case? Oh, I have to get the Agawam probably next week. I won't tell my wife I'm going either. All right. After the Prom was one of his most nostalgic. The little boy and little girl sitting in a diner. They didn't go to Blindstrup's. They didn't go to Vaughan Monroe's, the Meadows, out there in Framingham. They went into a little diner, and I have it up here somewhere. See, Vaughan Monroe, the Meadows, it comes back to you, right?
Yeah.
Blindstrup's comes back to you. And Blindstrup's was always very good to Cardinal Cushing.
Right.
Oh, he was always very good to Cardinal Cushing. Oh, yes. Blindstrup's. Stockbridge, Main Street at Christmas, which was in McCall's, not in Saturday Evening Post. I have this at home. My wife wouldn't let me bring it because she doesn't trust me. It would be broken. It's this long, and it's this high. And it's hanging in our living room. It's Christmas time right in downtown Stockbridge. And over the store is his studio. And if you go into Stockbridge now, the Red Lion Inn is right across the street. It's all in that painting. He started it in the 50s, in the 1950s. But then he started working on other things. And it wound up the 60s. So he had to do something different. So he took a couple of cars out of it, and he put in 2 60s cars in it to bring it up to date. Otherwise, people would be saying, how come that 1950 car? We're in the 1960s. It doesn't work. So he changed 2 of the cars, 2 models, brought them up to the 60s. That's pretty smart, too. Why do the whole thing all over again? You can change just 2 cars. Maybe these. The Golden Rule. Sad Evening Post cover, 1961, dedication to world peace and harmony. He took people from every different race, every different religion, and they're all in it, and it's up here somewhere, and I'll get it out for you. I know it's here. The Golden Rule. He always tried to get people to look dignified. Gave them dignity, no matter what they were doing. Even the clown, even the hobo, he made sure that they had a little dignity to them. He never put them down in the gutter. He never did anything like that. He wanted people to appreciate the painting. I wanted to include people of every race, creed, and color, depicting them with dignity and respect. That's what it shows. The Peace Corps. He did one of John Fitzgerald Kennedy's legacy for Look magazine. And then he said this, I showed the America I knew and observed to others who might not have noticed. He always liked the upbeat part of our history. He didn't want to show the negative part. And he wanted people to be able to see the good part, not just the bad things that happened, the war and everything, the depression. He wanted people to be upbeat, and that's what he tried to show in his paintings. Spring flowers. Oh boy. Spring flowers, where are you? Look, it's probably right here. I'm sorry. Can't even read my... Here it is. This is the only still life he ever did. The only still life. Only one. And someone said, you usually have people in your paintings, Mr. Rockwell. And he said, well, she's not in it. But she is in it. This is his 3rd wife. You don't see her, but you see her sunbonnet, you see her gloves. She was the gardener. And so her spirit is in this. And that's why he painted this. We have this at home too. It's a lovely painting to be framed for springtime. It's a happy looking thing. But the spirit of his 3rd wife is in it. The only one he ever did. That's amazing for someone who did thousands of paintings. One still life. Gossips. So many portraits, the gossip, one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, all the way down. Did you notice who they're gossiping about? Him. He's the last one at the bottom. And he hears what's been said, and then he turns around and he nails the woman who has started the whole rumor. He put himself in there, but all the others, there must be 25, 30 paintings on the cover of the picture. Good job. Ichabod Crane. He did Ichabod Crane. Legend of Sleepy Hollow. He did Grandma Moses on her 89th birthday in his painting. He said, I received many letters noting mistakes in my covers. Mistakes. That must have bothered him. I always apologized, but sometimes it was not a mistake at all. In 1947, after 27 years of this, I painted an April Fool cover, which I deliberately loaded with 45 mistakes. You put 45 mistakes in there. Count them. You want everyone to count them. Well, they all counted them, but you can't win, he said. A man wrote claiming to have found 120. He only had 45 mistakes in it. You can't win. And they are funny covers. They are. So many notes. In 1973, a movie was made of him and Stockbridge. It won an Academy Award as the best documentary movie of the year. I purchased it at the studio when we were out there. Much of it is in black and white, and he's the narrator. And so you listen to him. So sometime when you want to just listen to something, I could bring that in, and listen and watch. I could bring it in and you can listen to Mr. Rockwell narrating this. It's now a DVD. So, and then another one was done, and I still haven't found this one, and I want to find it badly. Another movie was made the following year of Norman Rockwell and Robert Frost. They're in the same DVD. That movie not only won the New York Film Festival Gold Medal, it also won the International Film Award as the best documentary of the year. I want to get my hands on that one, because I think that would be quite interesting to show people. Rockwell and Frost? Whoa. When asked to name a personal favorite among the presidents, I told you he named Ike Eisenhower, and I can see why. He was down to earth, really. Nothing pompous about Mr. Eisenhower. But I got into big trouble because of President Eisenhower when I was in the Army. I was going overseas to Korea. And you know the little slip you have with all the shot records, you know? You have these shots before you go overseas. I figured I'm going to skip the shots because I was working in the office. This wasn't too smart. I saw you turn around, and it wasn't too smart. I got into big trouble. And so I made believe I got the shots, and then you have to initial each one of them. Well, I initialed my whole shot record, DDE, Dwight David Eisenhower. He gave me the shots. He did. I put DDE on my shot record. Well, they figured that out. When I got to Seattle, Washington, going over to Korea, they made me line up and wham, 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 wham. Oh my. I had so many shots going into me, I was like a pincushion. I shouldn't have done that because they got even. And I could have been in big trouble. The President of the United States gave me my shots. Not too wise. In the Army, you tried to beat them though because they're always after you to do something unnecessary. Oh, there was always a flurry of excitement in Stockbridge, as we can see. When all of these famous people came from Stockbridge, how many kids wanted to go to school on any day? If they found out John Wayne was coming, Gary Cooper was coming, they wouldn't want to go to school. They wanted to stick around and watch these people go to a studio and they all wanted to get autographs. They all wanted that. I imagine all the women were out there for a lot of these men too. They want their autographs. And maybe they made money that way too. As Mr. Rockwell got older, his health and his painting began to weaken. He would fall, even off his bike. He lost his equilibrium slowly, but one time he was out walking and riding the bike with his. He had a fire in Arlington, his studio. Do you remember this? When he lived in Arlington, Vermont, there was a fire in his studio. And by the time the apparatus came, you know, the old fire trucks, with almost no water, he lost his studio. It burned to the ground. all the costumes that his models would wear, gone. 35 of his original paintings, gone. And almost missed by one day the 4 freedoms. He had sent them in the mail the day before the fire. Who caused the fire? Norman Rockwell. His wife used to be on him all the time. He always smoked pipes. And he would never tap it out in the right place. And evidently he tapped it out in the studio, and it was still going. And he left the studio to go home. The whole place went up. He lost everything he had. But the townspeople came through for him. They brought back costumes galore. He got so many pipes he didn't know what to do with them. His wife probably wanted to throw them all away because he lost so much. And that night, he was so happy for the firefighters because they tried. He kept them there all night. Then they had a meal. Then he showed them other paintings. And they had a little celebration before they left with the fire truck to go back to the fire station. He wasn't running around pulling his hair out. He was calm. He was calm almost all his life. Nothing really bothered him too much. So that's good for a painter. It's good for an artist. Keep you calm. So then he moved, and he moved to Stockbridge after that fire. During his career, he changed from sketching on site with the models to taking pictures, and then back at the studio, he sketched from the pictures that he had taken. A lot of artists didn't appreciate that. They thought that wasn't right. He was ahead of his time. He would take the pictures of the models and go home, and then he'd paint the whole picture that he had taken. They thought everything should be done on site. That's an illustrator, that's an artist. But he didn't care, it worked. And he was getting a little older, and the kids couldn't sit still. So for such a long time when he was painting them, so whenever he had to do kids, bang, he took the picture, took it home, and then worked on it. He had to change it, bang, take another picture, take it home and work on it again. Because they were too fidgety, much too fidgety. In one of his paintings, he used a man, minus his mustache, as 2 old lady gossips. He used the man as the 2 gossips. And this is why. I couldn't find an old lady funny looking enough. So he used the funny looking old man, shaved out his mustache, put on a wig, and that was it. He painted the man. 2 paintings. Then he had a man who lived in the town who was wonderful. His name was Pop Fredericks. He was an old actor. He was a great model, posed for the doctor. Before the shot, he modeled for a thug, Mr. Pickwick, Benjamin Franklin, a cellist, Santa Claus, an actor, a hobo, a tourist, a pompous politician, a piccoloist, and a Christmas reveler. Same model. He just liked that old man, and he was in many, many of his paintings. And sometimes it was hard to recognize him because of the costume that he was wearing and the situation. But it was Pop Fredericks in many of them. And you will see Pop Fredericks up here. He had a good memory. He was lucky. He remembered even in early post covers all the troubles he had with the painting. He remembered the model's names, where it was painted, the technique used, where he got the props and costumes. It was all up here, right up here. He was like a Robert Frost of paintings. Robert Frost remembered all those poems right in here. He could rattle them off at any time. He remembered all of the models. He had trouble painting the picture in the cover for the 100th year of baseball. And I have that up here, and you will see that, and you can see why he had trouble, because he was not an athlete. He became an artist because his brother was a very good athlete, and he couldn't catch a fly ball if someone put it in his glove. He just didn't have it. Now, ready for this. He painted many stars, and this fellow is up here. Gary Cooper is up here. And I better pick it up so when you see it, you know who it is. Gary Cooper. I know he's here. I know I'm moving around when I shouldn't be, but I'll find it for you. Gary Cooper came to his studio. They all came to his studio. He didn't go to them. The only people he went to do their portraits were the presidents. He went to the White House. The others, they all came to Stockbridge or Arlington. And this is who he painted. Gary Cooper, Eddie Arcaro, remember the jockey? Eddie Arcaro. Frank Sinatra. Imagine Frank Sinatra going out to the Berkshires, to this little tiny town, to have his portrait done. He was thrilled to have it done, because this is what he said. When I found out that Rockwell was going to paint me, I felt like I was dipped in gin. You had to know he was a great drinker. He felt like he was dipped in gin. He was thrilled. Did the people of Stockbridge like it? Oh yes. Did they like having all these famous people come to town? Oh yes. All because of Mr. Rockwell. They came to him. Colonel Sanders. Walter Brennan. Remember the old cowboy? Walter Brennan was a scream. This is what Rockwell says. He was a scream. We had so much fun I couldn't get any work done. And he was doing a portrait for the Cowboy Hall of Fame. Rockwell was doing it. He also did John Wayne. Imagine John Wayne going to Stockbridge. The people loved that. And he wore his big 10-gallon hat. It was probably like a 20-gallon hat. And he came in this cowboy outfit. And the people were so impressed to see macho John Wayne coming into town to get his portrait done. But then Mr. Whittier wrote, John Wayne kept his hat on because he was bald. He was bald. At the time the portrait was done, he was bald. And Rockwell said it's a good thing he kept his hat on because that kept him macho. If he had taken it off, that's the end of that. He's just any ordinary person coming to town. He also did the astronauts, Arnold Palmer, Jackie Kennedy, Lady Bird Johnson, Prime Minister Nehru. He came in his black outfit. Mr. Rockwell said, could you change to your white outfit? That's what people enjoyed most. And so he changed for him. And he had it done in his white outfit. Mrs. Goldwater, Grandma Moses. Grandma Moses was one of his friends. She lived out that way. And he put her in one of the pictures, one of his paintings, The Homecoming. I'll show it to you after. It's a smaller picture. And he went to her 80th birthday party to help her cut her birthday cake. Grandma Moses. It's nice to know all these people living, at that period of time. That's not the end. He did Bing Crosby, Mike Connors, Anne Margaret, Robert Cummings, Van Heflin, Alex Cord, Slim Pickens, Stephanie Powers, Red Buttons, Keenan Wynn. They were all there for the refilming of Stagecoach. So he got them all at the same time, and he did their portraits. Then he did Ethel Barrymore, Loretta Young, Linda Donnell, Richard Widmark, Clifton Webb, Van Johnson, Boris Karloff, and Lassie. Lassie. Okay, now we have to go to the next page. Christmas Homecoming. He has the whole family in Christmas Homecoming. His whole family, including himself. His children, his wife, some of the fellow artists, Grandma Moses, they're all in it. And someone is coming home for Christmas, and it's one of his sons. So he did all of them in the same thing. The Girl at the Mirror. The Girl at the Mirror. I have to show you that. Oh, I should show you this right away. Now, isn't that good? Oh boy, he did a wonderful job of this. And this was the second one, because the first one went up in the fire. So he went back to Washington and did the second one. And he really thought that Ike Eisenhower was the nicest president that he painted. He was very low-key. Don't worry about time. I'll sit here as long as you wish. That was Eisenhower. And that's a great expression on his face. He did a great job. He also did, well, he did Adlai Stevenson when he was running for president. Adlai Stevenson. Did a good job with him, too. Very good job. Adlai Stevenson. And he did, oops, Richard Milhouse Nixon. Richard Nixon, when he was a little younger. Richard Nixon. Because after a few years, his hair got gray very quickly, if we remember why. And then we have John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Was that a magazine cover?
Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
have the magazine, that's why I thought I recognized it.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
the cover. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and did a good job on that one too.
Mhm. I like
Most of us think he did Saturday Evening covers, Saturday Evening Post covers. He did so much more than Saturday Evening Post covers. Lots of magazines.
that. I think that was Look, but I'm not sure.
Yes, he
Yeah.
did. He worked for Look and Collier's, Life magazine. He was everywhere. That's why he had so much work. That's why he was always behind. Always trying to play catch up. So he didn't have time to go out carousing once he got famous. The girl at the mirror. Oh, come on, girl at the mirror. I'm sorry. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to have it right here. There she is. She's sitting there looking into the Hall of Fame, and I'll show you this. What? It's in this one. I think it's in this one. Oh, boy. Oh. I have to look at all of them. That makes a difference. These three. And they're looking up at the rain. The rain's falling. Are we going to call off the game? Oh, are we not? Now the men last week, they came up afterwards because they wanted to know who all these umpires were. So I had them listed for them, and even the manager. So they were thrilled seeing this, and it's in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, in New York. Okay. He did illustrations for Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn. He went all the way to Hannibal, Missouri to get the feel of the town and the people. It was almost as if the two boys were still there. It was Mark Twain, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, all over Hannibal, Missouri. Everyone wanted to tell him a story about Mark Twain and Tom Sawyer, Sam Clemens. Came back with so much information. He had a difficult time drawing simple illustrations for the books. His most unpopular cover, are you ready for this? It's not in poor taste though. This is sad. The boy finding Santa Claus's costume in his father's bureau drawer. Oh, that did not go over with lots and lots of mothers throughout the country and everywhere else. Look at when you come up here after, you have to look at his eyes. His eyes are popping right out of his head. Oh, there isn't any Santa Claus. My father is Santa Claus. That was very unpopular, especially the mothers. And there was one that was very popular by the men, with the men, but not very popular with the women. It was the illustration of a mermaid a mermaid. And the mermaid is being brought ashore. There she is. She's in a lobster trap and she's being brought ashore. And lots of women are sent in and said, that was in very poor taste. She's showing a little bit too much. The men sent in and said, it was very good, but it could have been a little better. A little more should have been showing. So he took the hit on this one from the women. Actually, there's not much showing. I even took out a magnifying glass to check. There's not much showing. Not much at all. Okay. One of his strongest paintings was for Look magazine, not the Saturday Evening Post, in 1964. It was called The Problem We Live With, School Segregation. An African-American girl is the center of the painting as she is escorted to school by the U.S. Marshals. You probably all remember this because, boy, it jumps right out at you. Rockwell omitted the faces of the marshals. He wanted the center to be the little girl walking to school. So the faces are not there. And I have that one too. I have so many, I have to use all these little. There she is. The little girl, she's going to a school that had been segregated. And the government said, no more of this. And she, imagine being the model for this. Being the model. Lucky for her that she lived up north, and it was a lot later in time. Otherwise, it would have been very tough for her down there in Mississippi. Would have been tough. See, the faces are not there for the U.S. Marshals. He kept them out of trouble. But that was quite a cover. What I want to do with these is to have them as slides. Just put them up. And that's what my son and I are going to work on, because I have hundreds of these. And if we put them on slides, all we have to do is give a little something about each one, and everyone can see them because they'll be nice and large. And I'm kind of a rookie at this, at 78 years of age. I'm a rookie. Abraham Lincoln was Rockwell's favorite American. He painted Lincoln the rail splitter as an advertisement in 1964 for Lincoln Savings Bank, for a bank. And he did Lincoln for the Defense for a Saturday Evening Post story illustration in 1962. He also did a portrait of Raymond Massey, remember the actor who played Abraham Lincoln in the movies, Raymond Massey. Rockwell tried teaching art, but he was not a successful teacher. He just didn't enjoy it. He just didn't like it. He always displayed the enthusiasm that he wanted from his models. He actually did the facial expressions and the body contortions to show the models what he really wanted them to do. So he did things like, you know, strange look at it. He wanted them to have those expressions, or had them do, he did it himself so they could copy him. He was a character. He was a character. He was an actor. Rockwell did only one painting of war. One. And it was of an American machine gunner. And this is why he only did one. He was a World War II machine gunner. I do not like to do pictures, paintings, which glorify killing, even in a good cause. He didn't like war at all. He was a pacifist. Even though he joined the Navy, he was a pacifist, didn't believe in that, and didn't want to show it in any of his works. So one was it. He used his son, Peter, in a painting of a soda jerk. And it's up here. You'll see it after. He had to use his son, and he had to bribe his son to do this. The son is leaning over the counter, and the three girls are sitting there. They're all looking at him. Because he's making the ice cream sodas, he's making the fraps, he's making the sundaes, so they want a good portion. I understand what they're doing. I was a soda jerk too. When a girl goes like that to you, she wants a triple head of ice cream instead of just one. I know. I worked at the casino when I was in high school, down at Hampton Beach. Remember that big long counter? The ice cream counter? We worked there because that place was busy. And I could barely reach the counter. I'm short. You have to bend over a long time. Long ways. His painting family tree was tough to do. It took him over 3 months. He kept changing people on the fictional tree. Never really satisfied, even when he completed it. And he got so dissatisfied, he stuck himself in there. He's the minister in the painting, and I have it up here so you'll be able to see it. But he's the minister with the collar and everything. I have so many pages. In his art critic museum painting, the model for the woman in the frame was his wife Mary. Now, I have that because it's a good one to look at. Mary, Mary, where are you, Mary? Mary, I'll find Mary after her. She's in the frame. There's a man up there. He's checking out the frame, checking out the painting, but he's checking out a certain area of the woman in the frame. I don't want to get any deeper than that, folks. You understand, right? Okay. There's a lot of her showing. I'm surprised his wife let him do that. And then he used Anne Morgan, the daughter of friends, for Crest toothpaste. Remember the ad? Look, Mom, no cavities. Look, Mom, no cavities. She had 2 front teeth missing. So Norman had to paint in the 2 teeth because she was a friend of the family. They were missing, so he just jammed the two of them in there for Crest toothpaste. They couldn't leave her like that. That wouldn't work too well. And then, for a post cover, he couldn't use Anne Morgan because that would be unfair to Crest, which was right. He had to use another model who had all of her teeth. So this time he painted out the model's 2 front teeth. This was for a different ad. And this was for a different picture. And I have it up here, the teeth. Ah, yes. She's showing her missing teeth to her classmates. So she really did have the 2 front teeth. So this time he painted them out so he could use her as the model. Very shrewd individual. That's why he is so successful. We all remember the Willie Gillis series. Remember that? Know what time? Willie Gillis was the soldier, and everyone was always taking advantage of him. I have a whole group of them up here. One of them with the USO girls, and everyone following him around because his mother has sent him a care package, you know, those packages. And all the other soldiers want a piece of the cake or whatever's in that package. I have them here, so when you walk around, you'll see, oh, there they are, right there. 1, 2, 3. Willie Gillis. And then he had a 2-parter. It showed a family going on vacation in a car, and they're all smiling. The dog is happy as they're going. And as they return, no one's smiling. They're all. The only one who has the same expression in her face going and coming is the mother-in-law. She has the same expression going and coming. She wasn't too thrilled to go in the first place. So I have this up here too. So make sure you see it's a 2-parter. And it was the first 2-parter on the Saturday Evening Post cover. And you notice he never had to put captions. His painting told the whole story. You got it. You didn't need words underneath. No words were necessary. And he never liked to put them there. If he couldn't tell the story in his artwork, then it was not successful. Wasn't at all. He would be very disappointed. Also liked to party. She had a lot of bad things taken away from his poetry. Excuse me. Taken away from his art. I just finished a poetry class this morning. Oh my goodness. My forgetter is getting better than my rememberer. And my wife keeps reminding me of that. So I'm not telling her about the bag today, that's for sure. I joined the country club. I play golf. Joined the beach club. Nightlife and parties. Sophistication. 2 trips to Europe. I'm neglecting my work and it shows. 1929. Crash. Crash of 1929. And the same year, divorce. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. Because she took away too much of his time and she just wanted to have a great time for herself all over the world. So he was divorced. 2 years later, I married Mary Barstow. Norman and Mary met at a dinner put on by matchmakers. Someone was matching them up. She was an elementary school teacher in San Gabriel, California. And she was 14 years younger than he was. But she was great for him. She became the stabilizer in the family. She calmed him down, put him to work, doing his covers, doing his artwork, instead of living up the high life. That was the end of that. Norman got back to work, put in a full day's work every day. No more big society parties, no more hangovers. He was never happier. Mary took an interest in his work, even read many of the classics to him while he was painting. That's a nice way to paint. Someone reads the classics to you. If you've never been out to the studio in Stockbridge, I hope you get out there. I went out there a month ago with my wife. I had never been there before. And what an experience it was. Oh, of course we were out there for 2 different things. We were out there for the 80th birthday of John Williams, Boston Pops. He had his 80th birthday party at Tanglewood. And I had never been to Tanglewood before either. So my wife and I had a wonderful time out there. Oh, even Yo-Yo Ma was there. And Steven Spielberg was there. Oh, 23,000 people were there, parked in every pasture they could find in Stockbridge, because there weren't many parking lots out there. Her good humor helped Norman get through troublesome times when he wasn't satisfied with his work. He was a perfectionist. Sometimes he did things 5, 6, 7 times, and then go back to the original one. He decided the first one he did was the best one of the 5. The marriage was a godsend, and it was a very happy marriage, but it doesn't last that long. In 1959, shortly after he bought a house in Stockbridge and remodeled the carriage house into his studio, his wife died. Mary died, but he doesn't stay single very long. 1961, here I am still painting, and he painted covers until 1976. He met Mary Molly Punderson, a retired school teacher, another teacher. She had taught for 39 years at Milton Academy and had returned to her native Stockbridge. They met while taking a course in poetry, not art, in poetry. This also was a very happy marriage. Molly was a wonderful companion for Norman. If you've ever seen pictures of Mr. Rockwell when he was older, out on the bicycle in Stockbridge, she was the woman on her bicycle. They used to bicycle everywhere in Stockbridge. And she was wonderful for him too. She kept him stable to get the work done. He was always behind time. because he always had too much to do. Way too much. Sometimes things weren't done in time. He went past his deadlines. People didn't appreciate that. But his Saturday Evening Post covers never went past deadline. They were very important to him. According to Rockwell's autobiography, he went into illustration because it was a profession with a great tradition, a profession I could be proud of. I guess my temperament and abilities were the other part. Being somebody to my parents and brother and to my friends meant a lot to me. He loved being an illustrator. He didn't consider himself an artist, a painter. I'm an illustrator, even though he used color in his illustrations. Not at the beginning, though. He didn't use color at the beginning. Maybe as I grew up and found that the world wasn't the perfectly pleasant place I had thought it to be, I unconsciously decided that even if it wasn't in an ideal world, it should be. And so I painted only the ideal aspects of it. He left out the bad part. He wanted everyone to feel happy all the time, smile. He had the right idea. There were grandpas who played baseball with the kids, and boys fished from logs and got up circuses in the backyard. He loved all of these things, all of it. If there was sadness in this created world of mine, it was a pleasant sadness. There's a big difference. In 1914, most illustrations were reproduced in black and white. We painted with illustrators black, which is really a brown, so that the paintings wouldn't look funereal. I can understand. His first cover for the Saturday Evening Post was published on May 20th, 1916. A boy pushing a baby carriage. Do you remember this one? The boy pushing the baby carriage? Well, for those of you who don't remember, I have his first cover. The boy pushing the baby carriage. And he saved money on this project. He used the same model for all three boys. All three boys, the same boy. Same boy. He was saving for better things. His models were friends, neighbors, and relatives, especially from Arlington, Vermont, and Stockbridge, Massachusetts. They were his favorite places of all. He worked on story illustrations, greeting cards, advertisements for McCall's, Life, Collier's, the Literary Digest, the American, Country Gentleman, Look, Popular Science, Hallmark cards, Coca-Cola, Crest, Budweiser, Amway, Jell-O, Pan Am Airline, Fleischmann's Yeast, and even Skippy Peanut Butter. He did ads for all of those. His favorite subjects were kids, Santa Claus, and picturesque old men. Loved doing old men. And sometimes he used the same man 10 or 15 times because really looked old, lots of creases, round face, could be a model for all kinds of situations. He said, and I disagree with this, painting pretty girls has never been my strong point. I don't really know why, but I think he did a pretty good job on pretty girls and pretty women. He did his wife in one of them. He did his daughter-in-law in some of them. He did the girls from the neighborhood. Some of them loved that. He spent 10 months painting the 4 freedoms that I just showed you. 10 months painting those as a result of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's message to Congress. Then he brought them to Washington, D.C. to offer them as something patriotic, to see if they could do something with them for patriotism during World War II. Washington refused them. Said take them home. Refused them. I find that hard to believe. However, the Saturday Evening Post published them not as covers, but inside. But they were so popular that then the Washington Treasury Department decided to use them. Now they wanted to come back. Bring them back, we'll use them. And they did. In 16 cities, 1,220,000 people bought them for war bonds. They're selling war bonds. You could get a war bond by buying one of his paintings. Some people, most people, bought all four, the four freedoms. And the total for war bonds was $132,992,539. Now this is during World War II. That's a lot of money. The four freedoms were reprinted over and over. No other paintings in history have been so widely printed and distributed. No others. And they're still being distributed. People are still wanting them. They're still buying them. They're still hanging them up in their homes. And Rockwell, by the way, is coming back. He's coming back. Like some of the poets, they have times where things downhill, but then if they keep at it, they come back. Well, Mr. Rockwell's paintings are coming back. Now I have to show you this. The boy getting the shot in the doctor's office. The boy getting the shot. Now, as the boy was getting the shot, Mr. Rockwell was writing a check for the boy. Really writing a check for the boy, because he was a model, so he had to get paid. So while he was getting the Rockwell was writing out his check so he could get paid when he left. That's pretty good. And that boy, some people got very upset about this cover because he was showing too much backside. And so they let the Saturday Evening Post know about it. They knew. The painting of the three umpires about to make a decision because of rain now hangs in the Baseball Hall of Wife. Oh, and he fell right off the bike. And she had to pick him up and walk him back. 2 bikes and Mr. Rockwell walked them back to the home. Another time he took the bike all by himself and he never returned. And she had to get on her bike and she heard him. He had gone right over a stone wall. He just lost it, the bike went over, bing, over the wall he went, and they were yelling. The only way she found him is because the bike was damaged so much and it was crushed against the wall. And he went right over the wall. He was losing his equilibrium. That's sad. His wonderful touch of his canvases was also leaving him. Like everyone, like baseball players, like artists, like anyone. We lose our touch as we get a little bit older, especially people who are perfectionists. And that bothers him terribly. He even had trouble mixing his colors. And for an artist, that is near the end of the road, when you can't mix your colors the way you want them. But he said this, I get up early every morning. I'm at work by 8. I no longer believe that I'll bring back the golden age of illustration. I realized a long time ago that I'll never be as good as Rembrandt. What a thing to say. So, long life to you, gentle reader. This is Mr. Rockwell. Long life to you, gentle reader, as they used to say in books. The daisies still look better from above than from below. He's still an optimist. Somebody once said of Picasso, and this is Mr. Rockwell still speaking, of all the pictures you've done, which is your favorite? The next one. What an easy way out. The next one, so he said that too. He didn't really like to tell people his favorite. He said, 7 ads are waiting in the drawer. The canvas for the mural is hanging in the ice house. Sketches for more post covers are lined up on my print shelf. I guess I'd better get back to work. On November 8, 1978, Norman Rockwell died. It was the passing of a national treasure. He was almost 85. So he did last a long time, like Frost, like Whittier, well into their 80s. They were all very lucky, those people. So Norman Rockwell, I have hundreds of these. I did this over at Northern Essex Community College one time, and I had these all up on the walls, so it's easy to see. And then people walked around afterwards and they just took their time. And I was there for probably a couple of hours after I finished speaking, because the people wanted to see every one of them, and I didn't blame them. And just imagine how many memories came flooding back about seeing these long time ago. I left there very, very late, Northern Essex, but I was glad, and I used the new tape. They call it frog tape. It doesn't take any of the paint off the walls. So you put it on with tape all over the place, and none of the paint came off the walls, so they didn't run me out of Northern Essex Community College. And it was a great day for lots of people who wanted to see his artwork. I'm glad I've been collecting and collecting and collecting for many, many years, because he was a master, and it's all happiness. It's not the other kind of art. It brings a little twinkle to your eye, a little smile to your face. And I love taking them out every once in a while and looking at every single one. Sometimes you don't have the time to look at every little bit in each one. There's so much in there, lots of detail. And this one, oh, I'll take this back right now. This one right here. This is the golden rule. The golden rule. People from every single nationality, religion, and this other one, oh, I'm too short. The girl with the black eye, sitting outside the principal's office. Oh, look at that black eye. She's been out on the playground and someone whacked her and she whacked back, but she has a smile on her face. But the story behind it is quite different. He had no one with a black eye. So he advertised to get someone with a black eye. Put it in the paper. He got a call from state prison. If you want someone with a black eye, I'll make sure you get someone with a black eye. One of the prisoners was getting calls from everywhere. And he still didn't wind up with a girl with a black eye. He wound up with a boy with a black eye. But he painted a girl with the boy's black eye. He had the black eye. So there's a story behind most of these paintings. And that girl looks very happy, even though she has to see the principal. Okay, and here's Gary Cooper, and I'll finish. Here's Gary Cooper right there. It's right in the middle here, right underneath the homecoming. Here's the homecoming, right there. I'm going to turn some of these the other way, this way, so you can walk around and look at them, instead of everyone being caught up in front. All right?
Gus, we want to thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. That's a wonderful program. Thank you so much.
It could be much better though with slides.
Yes.
Makes it easier. Makes it easier.
They read in the paper a few weeks ago, they had a reunion of the models that were still living.
Yes.
They had been children, I guess, and now they had a good reunion of all of them together.
And I have some of the pictures of those people too. And what the homecoming is that way. This one right here. This is the homecoming. There's Grandma Moses. And this is his son, who was this person in the painting, with his back to you. And so he posed in front of this. So he came back, like the police officer came back too. And the little boy who was running away.